faced existential threats for years. We had the worst tragedy in '94. You really come to me and start threatening threats for defending myself, threatening sanctions because I'm defending myself, and you think I have any iota of fear for that? You know, I gave an example during our last 30th commemoration in my speech. I told the people how an old woman, during the genocide, before they killed her, the killers asked her to choose how she was going to be killed. And the answer to them was to spit in their face. That's what this old woman did. So you can imagine how much I'm going to spit in the face of anyone who tells me to choose between which death I should face.
And also protecting the rights of all. Later today, we will gather at Air Force Base Swartkop in Pretoria to receive the remains of 14 South African soldiers who lost their lives in the Eastern DRC. We will pay tribute to our fallen soldiers and honor their contribution to the struggle for peace on the African continent. Much has been said in this House and in the debate in the National Assembly earlier in this week about the deployment of the SANDF in the Eastern DRC. It is a debate that is welcome and necessary because South Africa's role in peacekeeping missions is indeed fundamental to the pursuit of peace, stability, and development in our own country, in the region where our country is located, and on our continent. The decision to deploy our armed forces is not taken lightly, particularly when that deployment may put our defense force members in harm's way. While South Africa has contributed to the SADC mission in the DRC, we have always maintained that an inclusive negotiated resolution is required to achieve lasting peace in the region. And we therefore welcome the outcome of the joint summit, a joint summit which was really historic in that it brought together SADC and the East African community over the weekend, and where we agreed that direct negotiations and dialogue must resume between all state parties as well as non-state parties, including M23. Now, we as South Africa insisted that non-state parties must also be included, and that M23, which has now invaded and taken over Goma, must also be part of this negotiation and dialogue. And we were able during that discussion to put forward our own experience as a nation, that as we brought the horror of apartheid to an end, it was incumbent on all of us to include state parties and non-state parties in the negotiation, and in the end, that is what finally led to the settlement of the apartheid horror. And we were able to share that with our colleagues and compatriots at the summit. And the message did sink in. And going forward, we are now going to see a dialogue that is going to involve state parties as well as non-state parties, all of them involved in an effort to bring an end to that conflict. The outcomes from the joint summit are in confidence-building measures towards a sustainable peace, which will finally lead to the drawdown of the SADC troops. As South Africa, we will do whatever is within our means to support the peace effort so that this conflict should finally end and the people of the region should finally know peace. This weekend, I'll be traveling to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia for the 38th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the African Union. The AU has designated the theme for 2025 as Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through reparations. South Africa and Ghana have been nominated to champion this theme. We will focus on actively engaging African diaspora to foster meaningful connections and encourage investment in our countries. This initiative is about more than reparations. It is a powerful call for unity, empowerment, and the upliftment of our continent. And together we will forge a resilient continent where hopes thrive, allowing people of African descent to reconnect meaningfully with their continent. We live in times of great uncertainty that are impacted by geopolitical events that are unfolding way beyond our shores. Closer to home, we have considerable challenges to overcome if we are to build a country freedom with true equality and shared prosperity for all. And this, in my view, is a time of opportunity and hope. Now, the Government of National Unity represents
yes, that is Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of South Africa. So let us all of us insist peace. Let us all of us encouraging negotiation and showing that we Africans, we can solve our challenges. Mr. Ramaphosa has spoken very well, and that is what, of course, all of us, we want as the people of Africa. We want peace in this continent. We want the people of Africa to enjoy the fruits of peace, especially in those areas where there are some conflicts. For instance, in Eastern DRC, in Sahel there, in Sudan, in Somalia, in some parts there, in northern Mozambique. So we want the people of Africa to enjoy the fruits of peace. And also, Mr. Ramaphosa has spoken on the issue of diaspora, and of course that is the thing that we have been addressing many times. We want our diaspora, African descent, to have portion in the continent of Africa. You know, you find that Chinese, Europeans are those who are beneficiaries of Africa's cake, but our African descents and those who are in the diaspora are not enjoying the African cake. So this time we need to include them, to recognize them, and to give them opportunities here in the continent of Africa. So that is also a good thing from the African Union. But we want more African Union actions, not only on the diaspora. We need African Union in peace, African Union in recognizing the needs of the people of Africa. So after that, my dear lovely Africans, let me stop here because I can spoil this good speech of Mr. Ramaphosa. So let us say bye-bye. Have a nice time. See you next time. Thank you.